New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello, hello, and good morning. Allie Benjamin here, and I'm so excited to be here for my first show, Growing Edge Live, here with the New Thought Media Network. I'm just thrilled to be working with Robert Brzezinski and his team and all of the other collaborators that use this amazing platform to share their ministry, their messages, their music, their creativity. And it feels good to be part of something amazing that's doing good work in the world and helping to elevate consciousness. So I'm so glad that you're here today, whether you're watching this live with us or you're maybe watching it on social media. If you are, that will be wonderful to know that it's working, that I'm actually broadcasting on my Facebook page, my YouTube channel, and also on New Thought Media Network. You can go to either YouTube or Facebook and find us. So it's really amazing. It's really wonderful to be here and be a part of this network, to be offering this show. It's something that I haven't done before. I'm going to sort of run through the usual flow of things with you today. Today's going to be slightly different. And so next week when you come on, you'll see more of the polished performance, if you will. So today I'm going to be talking about me, why I'm doing this. I'm going to be introducing you to Robert, the founder of New Thought Media Network, and we're going to be talking about some ways that we can collaborate, his organization and our organization, Satya Center, and how we can come together and do some good work. So typically, we'd start with just a moment, a grounding. And so why don't we do that right now? So if you will, take a moment to just arrive wherever you are and breathe. And maybe you want to close your eyes. Or maybe you want to keep them open because you're in an amazing setting and you just want to drink in what's around you. So as you arrive and we arrive together, let us just trust and know that all is unfolding perfectly, that we rest and relax and just drink in this next 45 minutes or so. We open our hearts and know that whatever is being revealed today, we see it with crystal clarity, that we receive it with an open heart. And what we create here today together makes a difference in the world and moves out in waves of light and love to touch, uplift, and inspire all humanity. And so it is. So we are here, we're present, we're grounded, we're settled in. And typically, during this first 10 minutes, let's say, I'm going to be doing a segment I call Ask Allie. And during that time, I will be presenting a question that someone has sent in to us, a question that I may know the answer to, or usually not. I just seem to get into a zone or a state of mind and openness where I catch some thoughts and ideas and just let those flow. And so it will be that portion of the hour-long broadcast where I'll get to stand on my soapbox and I'll get to share my thoughts and insights. But this show is not I'm not hoping it be me standing on my soapbox the whole time. I want this to be a conversation, an ongoing conversation. So if you hear something that you agree with or don't agree with or want to have more of a discussion about, then join in, contact me, write in a question, and I'll be able to respond to that live. And if not live, I can bring it up next time around. And so we've got some people already on. There's Carol. Hi, Carol. And good morning to you too. And so send in your questions and we'll discuss them and we'll explore them together. I think that's what the growing edge is all about, because all of us, we're at the growing edge, the green growing edge of our own becoming. We've never lived this moment before. The now moment's always fresh. And when we have this awareness of being on this fresh, green, growing edge, we can be curious, we can be open-minded, and we can think a new thought. And so we get to do that together as we participate in conversations, as I bring up questions that people have sent in, and hopefully as a group, whoever's on the broadcast live, we'll have an opportunity to share our 2 cents. So that's going to be Ask Ali. And so why am I doing this? Why did I decide to partner up with Robert and New Thought Media Network? Well, when COVID happened, when the pandemic was here, we at the Satya Center, which is our center here not here, I'm in England at the moment, but where I live in Utah, the Satya Center has been the spiritual community that my husband and I founded in 2009. And for all the years from then until the pandemic in 2020, we had been meeting in person. And we had a vibrant congregation, music and youth program, and classes, practitioners and ministers in training. And we had a lovely community. We would do solstice and equinox celebrations. We even did a huge music festival called the Om Fest. And we did this for many years. And so when the pandemic came and we all went in isolation and lockdown, we, the Sati Center, had to rethink what we're doing, just like many of the other churches and spiritual communities in New Thought, and especially the ones here on this platform, New Thought Media Network. We had to rethink it and do something different. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been primarily online. I do a Sunday service on Facebook, and sometimes if I can get all the tech things going, I can put it over on YouTube. Well, it was all a bit too much for me. So I thought, well, I need to find some support in helping to continue the ministry, because we weren't ready to retire our ministry. We closed the doors to our brick and mortar center, but our ministry and our practitioners and our ministers were still eager to serve, still eager to share positive, inspiring music and messages and gatherings and workshops, but we didn't want to have to fund a brick and mortar building. And so we've been brainstorming for the past 3 years on how are we going to do this. So I'll talk a little bit more about this when I bring Robert, our guest, on today. But I met Robert several years ago at the Big Sky Retreat in Montana. And I've been serving on the board of directors there for several years. And I saw this man I'd never seen before, and he had a camera and he was filming. And I asked the other board members, "Who do you know who this is?" And the people I asked, they didn't know. And so I was intrigued and got to know him. And I had the great joy of being on one of his New Thought Media Network shows with Reverend Cindy Grimes and Reverend Donna Davis, and they're from Ocala, Florida. And so we did that show together. My husband, Michael Benjamin, and we were their guests. And so I got to see Robert in action. It started to make sense because I couldn't quite wrap my head around what he was talking about as far as a streaming platform and New Thought Media Network. It was just way over my head. And so when I was there doing the show, I got to see him doing it. And he seemed to be having a great time. And lo and behold, the church in Ocala was online and offering their streaming service to their people, their congregation. And so that was sort of just a placeholder. And then a couple of years went by, and I saw that Robert was at Anton, the affiliated New Thought Network conference or retreat at Unity Village. And I thought, okay, he's popped back up on my radar. And so I want to, I just noticed. And again, I wasn't ready. Our family has been through a lot over the last 5 years, and I wasn't really ready to start anything new up until now. And so placeholder again, Robert Brzezinski. And so then recently I was talking to my friends at Anton, the affiliated New Thought Network, and his name came up again. And I thought, okay, third time a charm, I need to call Robert. And my friend, Reverend Bill Marcioni, he had mentioned that I should connect with Robert, that he could help me with my broadcast, with this show that I have this idea for, Growing Edge Live. And so that's where this all started. And I contacted him, and we've been having conversations. I keep pestering him with probably repetitive questions on the same old stuff, but he's been so generous in answering them and supporting me in developing this show. I'm so excited about having conversations with people, and that's what this show really is all about. It's a little bit of a spiritual tune in and tune up. We'll do a little bit of prayer. We'll have a little spiritual practice at the end. And today, Reverend Robert has agreed to do a little spiritual practice, a little meditation with us. So that's something to look forward to. But really, the main course, if you will, is going to be my conversations with some really wonderful people from all walks of life, people that direct their time, their talent, their love, their energy into helping others. And it's not all ministers. I have some artist friends of mine that I have on the calendar. I have some teachers and some just plain old interesting folk that seem to bring light into the world. And so those are the people I'm interested in talking to, the people that have that deep sense of peace around them and a deep giving heart, sort of a very generous spirit. And I also think it's so interesting to sort of cut back beyond what people do and get to who people are and how they feel and how they cope with this amazingly beautiful but also devastatingly painful sometimes life. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be having conversations, real conversations, heartfelt conversations. And I'm also open for this to be really spontaneous. I'm open for this show to move in magical ways. We'll just see where spirit takes us. And if you would like to if you have some thoughts for me, for us, and at the Satya Center, if you'd like to suggest someone. Now, we're not going to go with everyone's suggestions, but there may be someone that you know that sort of falls into this, some of the ideas that I've shared with you, and I'd love to hear from you. So without further ado, I'd love to move to my special guest segment. And today I'm thrilled. It just made such sense to ask Robert to be my guest, because he can help explain what this platform is and what it can do. And he's the one that has all the answers. That's what I found anyway. So please, Robert, join me and come in to this beautiful room of Growing Edge Live. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I'm going to say it again and again and again. Thank you for making that phone call. You do give me a little chuckle, though, when you say I have all the answers. I really wish I did. I felt like I had all the answers. But the beauty of this philosophy and what we're going to talk about today is the answers do reveal themselves, and things make a way for themselves in this world, and New Thought Media Network is a big part of that. So again, I'm really grateful that third time was a charm, and you trusted in spirit to say, okay, I hear you. I'm going to call Robert and see what this is all about, because it's been a delight working with you and getting to know you and putting together the pieces of what is now Growing Edge Live. And this is your premiere episode here on the New Thought Media Network. So on behalf of the network, on behalf of our entire team and myself personally, we're absolutely delighted that you've said yes to your calling, to who you are, and have said yes to being a part of what we're doing here on NTMN.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that nice, warm welcome. I definitely do feel welcomed. I've been on a couple of your shows with you, and then with Reverend Gina, and so it's been a very warm welcome. And yeah, thanks for having us. I look forward to seeing where it goes, and actually being together. Maybe there'll be times that we'll bump into each other at Unity Village or what have you, and we'll be able to go live together. That would be fun too.
Yes, exactly. And I do also want to say a special welcome to anyone that's in your tribe of people and have been following you. And if there's anyone out there, this is your first time learning about New Thought Media Network, well, we want to say thank you for showing up for Ali and welcome you into this grand vision of what we're doing here as well. So please know you're welcome here also.
Thank you. Yeah. So what, I mentioned to you when we were chatting before the show started, and I said, I'm not going to bother reading a bio because that's your job. You're going to tell us who you are and what you're up to. I'd love to for all of us to hear more about you, how you had this vision. As you heard me say, I'm going to be talking to people and talking with people that are using their time, their talents, their energies to support others and to help make the world the beautiful place that we know in our hearts is possible. And so, this is a big idea that you had and have manifested. How did it all start? Tell us about you and how you got to this point.
Thank you. It's very interesting, I find, the way spirit works. So we're going to rewind the clock all the way back to 2001, when my now wife and I were just dating and deciding, is this something that's real and special? And our part of that experience was a search for a spiritual community that we could share. And she had been brought up Lutheran. I was brought up to believe that God stood for the great outdoors. And at that time, that's what it was. And we were living in Utah. And we had spent the summer of 2001 the spring and summer searching for a community we could share. And we hadn't found anything. And then in August, through a series of synchronicities, if you will, my wife was her life coach introduced us to Science of Mind, and at that time introduced us to the Salt Lake Center for Spiritual Living. Actually, this is the Church of Religious Science at that time, and then became Center for Spiritual Living. And I immediately felt at home with the philosophy. Now, the beauty of this story in some ways is that this happened in August of 2001. I think most people watching probably remember or have heard of what happened in September of 2001. And so one of my first introductions to this philosophy was in the processing of 9/11 and being held by a spiritual community and finding a philosophy that helped me to make sense of all that and helped me to grow into a greater contribution to human consciousness, if you will. And so I set upon the traditional path of classes, and one led to another, and the next thing I know, I'm licensing as a practitioner and serving on the board as the president of that organization for a while. And that led to ministerial school, and that followed the tradition and came out of ministerial school and founded a church that lasted about 3 years and was a great learning experience, and moved my family after that halfway across the country to pastor an existing church, and that was not quite the right fit either. And again, another great learning experience, and landed back in Colorado, actually rather disillusioned with the concept of ministry. And in 2019, really out of desperation to do something that felt slightly relevant, I started an online radio station. That's called New Thought Radio. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through our website and other platform outlets. And lo and behold, now 2019 turns into 2020, and we have another ground shaking, life altering, consciousness shifting experience. Only this time it wasn't isolated to the United States and New York. This time it was a global experience. And in that experience, in that question, in that absolute unknown, I turned on a live stream platform, which we're still here on now today, StreamYard, and shared a prayer for humanity. And that real rapidly led to twice a day, sharing a morning prayer and an evening prayer. Now, for those that remember back into March, April, May of 2020, nobody was going out, nobody was going anywhere. So it was really the only avenue that we had to communicate in many ways, is the social platforms. And we, as an organization, immediately, well, I, as the organization, immediately started relying on friends and others to say, hey, come be a part of this. And one of our very first shows actually was after the prayer broadcasts, was ministers talking shit or bleep or stuff. And you've been a guest on that program, and it's really an opportunity to say, hey, this is how we see the world, and this is what's going on, and here's a new thought perspective on what's happening in the world. Over the last 3 years, we've managed to amass a great group of people that see a similar vision to ours, that are in alignment with the vision of New Thought Media Network, to bring forward various types of shows on grief, on we have a new show in production on parenting that's going to be amazing. We have all kinds of different interviews and perspectives, from beginner to more advanced teachings, and now we have the Growing Edge Live, and now you're part of and this attraction factor, if you will, continues to expand and grow and call more people into what we're doing. And by that, well, I really don't see anything that can stop us because of this amazing philosophy. And I'm grateful that you and I almost met in Utah over a decade ago, and you were kind of the new person in Utah at the time, just as I was leaving Utah to move to Colorado. And I remember people saying, "There's this new woman up north, and but she's not CSL. She came from Emerson, and So there are those, and myself included. I used to have a rather snobby attitude towards people that went to Emerson Institute. I have a totally different perspective now, but we almost crossed paths a number of times, and I remember that event at Big Sky, feeling very much out on the skinny branches. Showing up with very little permission from Charles Geddes to set up my camera, and begging the sound guy to give me a sound patch off the soundboard to try to capture better audio. But it was also there that my eyes were open to a greater expression of New Thought in the world. It was there that I was introduced to you, to your husband Michael, to PJ Stanley, to what else is out there. And it was PJ that said, "Hey, why don't you come to the Anton conference in a couple of months from now?" And I went, "I have no idea how that's going to happen, but sure, let's do it." And again, it's been really just an absolute delight getting to work with you and finding another kindred spirit on this journey of enlightenment that we're all undertaking. And together we're all just growing. It's a good thing.
It is. I love hearing that story, and we are very similar. You and I, we're sort of these visionary idealists, creatives, and I like that very much about you and what you've created here at New Thought Media Network. Now, you mentioned that we should maybe take a break halfway through, and it looks like we're just about there. Do we want to do that now, do you think?
Absolutely. Sounds like a great idea.
Okay.
We're going to take just a couple of brief moments, folks, to share a couple of messages from some of our sponsors and some of the other folk that make this network happen. And please don't go away while we're doing this. Hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and let your friends know what we're doing. We're going to come back with a whole nother conversation and take this a bit deeper. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are a gift. That is the absolute truth. You are a gift, a blessing to the world, a way that the infinite love of God shines itself, shares itself, and expresses itself more fully in the world. You are a gift and a blessing. Please take that seriously. Take it as your honor. Take it as your opportunity to be a light that shines for others. Be that bright light of God's love that's the truth of who you are, and enjoy it, because you deserve it.
And we're back.
Hello, and welcome back. Well, that was nice. Had a quick drink of water, and now we are going to go a little deeper, because I have some questions for Robert. Not some questions, but sort of some ideas I want to sort of bounce back and forth to inspire a conversation. And I want you, viewers, friends, to also think about these things and participate. Drop a comment, a question. So the idea of growing edge, because that's a word, a phrase that came to me actually when I was at the Big Sky Retreat one year. Mary Manon Morrissey was leading a workshop or a talk or something like that. And she referred to an old English nun, maybe it was Dame Julian of Norwich, I can't remember, but that seems like it was who it was, referred to the green growing edge of her own becoming. And that phrase just opened me up to realize that each of us are at the very green growing edge of our own evolution. That, and we in New Thought, we know that we're always creating or co-creating our experience in the now moment with our thoughts and with our feelings and emotions and our actions. We're always creating something. And so, Robert, what is it that we as humanity during this time of such division, such chaos in many parts of the country, the world, what is it that we need to consider as we think of ourselves at the very growing edge of our own becoming? Like, what are some ideas, or what do we need to know? What are we waking up to? What old things are falling away, and what new paradigms are right here, but we just need a little help in focusing on what's really important? Like, have you found, you listen to many shows, you participate in many shows, like what's at the very green growing edge for us as not only people that are in New Thought, but whomever is listening here that's interested in their own development, their own happiness in the future, their own health and well-being? What are some of the things that you found that it's pretty obvious, but maybe we're not all quite tuned in?
Beautiful. A number of years ago, I had the opportunity to be a teaching assistant for Reverend Dr. Roger Teal. And in that class, he shared a phrase that truthfully I don't hear very often. And with his permission, New Thought Media Network sort of adopted that phrase. And the phrase is, deeply we are one. When I came into New Thought, into this philosophy, and everybody that walks through the door, we hear that a lot. We are one. We're one human family. We're one mind. We're the divine taking shape as individualized expressions of the one. But I think that New Thought has been a teaching philosophy helping us to get to that place of recognizing our oneness. And yet, for many, that is still let's call it a mental experience or a mental experiment. And it's easy to be one with people that vote the same way we do. It's easy to be one with the people that show up to our community center, our church, our whatever synagogue, whatever you want to call it, our house of worship. It's easy to be one with those that have like mind. But the tricky part is to come to a realization that we are one with those we don't agree with and who don't think like we do and who don't believe like we do. Now, I'm not here to try to say we have to bring everybody to New Thought, that everybody's got to become a New Thought practitioner or minister or congregant. What I do believe, however, though, is the great promise comes in our ability to recognize that no matter what your outward expression is, at the very center of your being, you and I are the same. We're made of blood and bone and muscle and neurons, and we may think a little differently, but we are all born of the same stardust. We are all created in that image of the one. Regardless of the name, regardless of the image we assign it, we are deeply, we are that one. And what I believe is, as we come to more fully express that, we will move beyond the experience of othering people. Centers for Spiritual Living has this great mission and vision statement, if you will, that says we envision a world that works for all, for everyone, excuse me. CSL says a world that works for everyone. Now, there are those that would argue that, well, it does work for everyone according to their own consciousness. And that's a very high level way of saying, I can avoid everything and just do what I want to do. Sharif Abdullah actually originated a phrase very similar that said a world that works for all life, or a world that works for all. I believe the future, if you will, of New Thought is in our ability to collaborate and create a world that's working better for all, that's working towards the benefit, towards the good. And you hit on something in your question, that we can use what we learn from New Thought to create limitation in our lives just as easily as we can create freedom. And I think some people get stuck in buying into the human limitation that appears like division and separation, rather than taking that moment to say, wait a minute, that's not how this works. Deeply we are one. And so I am not just my brother and my sister's keeper, I am my brother and my sister's friend. I am actively working to avoid creating a sense of otherness in any group, for any belief system. And that is, I believe, the way towards absolute global peace, and an understanding that we can work together to transcend our arguments, our limitations, our false perceptions, and become, well, deeply we are one.
That's beautiful. When you were talking about that, I was thinking about, we talk to our friends, our congregants, our communities, those that gather under the umbrella of New Thought, and we're all like nodding our heads, yes, yeah, we get that, we're all one. And I was wondering, because I know you have children, I have children, I have grandchildren, and I'm wondering, how does that message land that we're all one with your kids, or even your friends' kids? Like, are you seeing that you and your neighbors and friends that are New Thought, are they able to somehow pass that along to their kids? Are the millennials and the Gen Xers, are they getting that, or are they born already knowing that? Like, are we just preaching to our own age group or the older folk, or does this have any meaning for the younger ones? And if so, how do you see that with your kids?
Absolutely. I have a 15 and a just shy of 18. My eldest will turn 18 in another week or so here next week. And so, having brought these two amazing beings, having brought them up in New Thought, I do believe they and some of their peers understand this, believe this, and recognize that even though they don't always see this truth of our oneness, that they see expressions and things and other people acting out that would appear to not be one. They know at a deep, deep level that this is true. And I really believe that you're right. We really can't preach to anyone except our own generation. It's very hard to cross that, to be relevant to someone who, if you're not my child, why would you listen to me? But those people are listening to my kids. And so I think there is great promise in the younger generations to continue to grow and expand this philosophy, grow and evolve this philosophy into a place where younger and younger generations are willing to not just listen and say, oh, yeah, but, and willing to go to the, you're right, and this is what we're going to have to do to help others see this truth as well.
Yeah. I'm noticing in the comments here, Carol is saying that there's a particular young person that really believes, and she's mentioning someone that was part of our congregation at Satya. And so, yeah, there are those younger people that might come into our services or classes and listen and really be tuned in and turned on by, you know, us, what we're talking about in regards to oneness and other spiritual principles that are so key and foundational to science of mind and unity. But I can see it in my kids, you know. I don't know that they buy the whole cake, you know. they'll maybe have a slice and you know, just to please me or something. But I think the you know, one of the you know, the foundational premises of New Thought is personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, in that way, I see that each of us have this. My children have developed a way of, you know, owning up to their, you know, taking responsible for their own lives and not, you know, handing it off to some religion or some other group or some other, you know, thing that
Right.
they're responsible for their part of this
Yeah.
oneness. So I have another question.
Absolutely.
And I said to myself, this is not an interview, Ali. You're not doing an interview, but it seems to be kind of sounding like an interview, but that's okay. I like to think of that our life becomes like the way we bring our vision into reality. Like the life that we've created is the way, if we're aware of our ability to be a conscious manifestor or a co-creator, that we actually bring our vision into reality and then we start living it. And so I know that we've talked about New Thought Media Network, and that's a mighty vision. And I'm wondering, is there another thing, or can you tell us a little bit about your life and how you live your vision? Like, how have you changed since 2020, you know, or whenever 2021, when you first found Science of Mind? And like, how have you made a life that, you know, give us a picture of Robert's life and how you've brought your vision to life, because that's such a big conversation within New Thought, is about manifesting your reality. And so I think it's important that people have an example, like real life example of, oh yeah, I did that. Have you done it? Are you living your best life there?
Yes, absolutely. I am thrilled every morning to get out of bed and get online, and whether it's a morning practice show or whether I'm not even on broadcast that day and just working on background stuff, I have a great joy to be sharing this philosophy out into the world. And you know, you say something that's very, very important. We teach that we have the control of conditions, that we have the power of our mind to control conditions, to create the life we truly desire, to using personal responsibility and so many other things. And it feels like a lot of, and this is now 20 years of experience talking, I've seen numerous people come into this philosophy, get what they want, and then get out. Meaning they experience a healing, or they get a new job, or they find some success. They use the tools and then have a tendency to flutter off, if you will. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because these principles continually remind us, if we practice them, if we use them, they work. If we work it, it works. And one of the greatest stories I realized recently that I love is, in the early days of my experience with New Thought, was just before the movie The Secret came out. Now, if you're watching and you don't remember the movie, that's okay. Go check it out sometime. But there was a scene in the movie where there was a British man, and he would talk about how before he found this philosophy, all that he received in the mail was bills, obligations to pay money, bills in the mail, bills in the mail. And that by using this philosophy, he changed that to receiving checks in the mail. And now, anytime he went to the mailbox, all he got was checks, was receiving money. And both my wife and I thought, yeah, that's, a cute story. Yeah, that's, yeah. But that, that's not really real. That's just somebody they found for this movie. Well, we realized about a couple years ago now, actually, that every single one of our monthly obligations, every one of our monthly bills is set up on an auto pay system. Now, if there's something different that comes into our life, or something new that shows up that needs to be worked into those payment schedules, that takes a little of attention. But pretty much everything coming in, everything going out every month is already organized. So we don't get bills in the mail anymore. Many of you probably are like this too. You don't get a paper bill in the mail. It all is electronic. So we had half the equation. And as we started New Thought Media Network, well, more donations would come in by checks. And we work with a number of different communities throughout North America that still pay by check. And we laughed when we realized, well, now we're getting checks in the mail. Now, I'm going to be honest, it didn't happen overnight. This was a 15-year process. It was a 15-year process of suspending our belief that it was even possible, because at first we didn't even think it was possible, and revealing, digging into, and eliminating the belief that it was even possible, and then working on the belief that we were worthy of it, and then doing the work of implementing the systems to make sure it happened and that something doesn't get missed, and how to add a new obligation to the list so it doesn't get missed. And it took us close to 15, 18 years or so. But now we don't get bills in the mail, and we only get checks. A little bit of junk mail and, the supermarket flyers and stuff too. But this, and I'm sure there's somebody out there watching right now going, oh yeah, but not for me. I can't do that. That's not possible for me. I don't know that. I haven't been doing this for 20 years. And the beauty is, you don't have to be. If you can imagine it and you can see one person that's demonstrating a desire you might have, then you're absolutely capable of making that happen in your life. You might want to get with a minister or a practitioner or somebody for some prayer work. You might want to connect with those around you. What I really, at the biggest core of all of this, is I believe that New Thought supports us in creating an environment in our lives that reminds us and gives us permission to really work this stuff.
Mm.
And it was the great Johnny Coleman that said, it works if you work it. I see people that understand it and don't work it, but I have yet to see anybody whose prayers are not answered when they do the work that is necessary, when they stay in that place of utilizing these practices, constant affirmations, denials of the things that don't fit, and those that work it get results.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're living proof 20 years later watching that movie.
Yep. And now, and once you get to that point, right? Once you get a few of those under your belt and you realize that I don't have to set every moment of every day into a project for it to come to fruition. but I
Yeah.
have to spend every day in reminding myself that I am a divine expression of the One, that
Yeah.
everything necessary for the complete and total fulfillment of my life's mission comes into my life exactly as necessary, in exacting measure. Uh, I've been doing the John Randolph Price 40-day prosperity plan for 1,060 days as of today. 61.
Wow.
Today was 1,061. So a little over 3 years or whatever, almost 3 years now, 4 years now. And I spend that 10 minutes every single day in a consciousness of growing and expanding what I believe is capable, what I'm capable of, and what's possible for me in the world of finances and abundance and prosperity. And any aspect of our lives, there's a way out, that there's a process out there to help us remember the absolute truth of who we are.
So important. Remembering the truth, affirming the truth, living by design
Yeah.
rather than by default. And I think so many of us just sink into those old default patterns. I like to think of it as slipping below the line and just kind of, going along with life, when we can really start to be creative thinkers.
Yep.
I get to be creative in my thoughts and experiment with how that kind of thinking and how that mindset and how that heart set really impacts not only your life but your relationships.
Right.
And I mean, that at the end of the day, really, that's what this funny old life is all about, isn't it? It's about our relationships.
Yes.
And I'm here in England at the moment. My stepmother passed away last month, and we've been having a series of events, not events, but this Thursday is her memorial service, and I'm really seeing. She was 80 years old, and so I'm seeing all of these friends and family come together and communicate about this wonderful party, this Thanksgiving that we'll have for her on Thursday. And as we're going through all of her stuff, her boxes and her pictures and her diaries, and we're just seeing what an amazing networker she was. She kept so many of the different parts of the family connected. And I don't know that that's happening so much in families these days. That us younger folk aren't really maintaining some of those connections with our family members that aren't right, close by.
Right.
And so, yeah, we get to think about those things that are most important to us and bring them into our lives and make them a reality. And it truly is, like Ernest Holmes talked about, we have to be able to take these principles and these teachings and bring them into our lives and live them and prove to ourselves that they work. Positive thinking and focusing on what is real and focusing on who we want to be and how we want to be. All of this stuff it's just a way of life, right?
It's a way of life. Exactly. Ernest Holmes described religious science in the early days as a faith, a philosophy, and a way of life. And what I believe is mine to give and mine to do is support people in creating that sense of way of life, where rather than tuning into traditional mass media news, you can tune into the good news on Fridays at 5 p.m. And instead of watching the soap operas in the middle of the day, you can watch Growing Edge Live. And whenever you might need a spiritual pick-me-up or some inspiration, you can tune in to something different. You can listen to podcasts about positive messaging rather than tearing down the politicians on the other side of the aisle or tearing down someone from a different faith tradition than yourself. Together, we're building everyone up. And I think that's a very, very, I am constantly talking about, are you working for something or are you working against something? Because if you're working against something, the the journey is already lost. But if you're working for something, then the world opens up to you and the possibilities are endless.
Endless. Well, we are coming to the end here, and I'd love it if you would share a spiritual practice with us. Do you have one of those up your sleeve?
I do, and we're gonna do a very abbreviated version of my absolute favorite practice, which is the life visioning practice. And I actually do this every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time here on the network. We do a longer, extended version of this, but we're going to take just a few moments, folks, and I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and let yourself just tune into your breath. Tune into yourself. For what I know that within you, there is a direct conduit. You have direct access to the truth of who you came here to be. That within you is a direct avenue, a direct access to the wellspring of all wisdom, to the source of all knowledge. That you have access to all insight and inspiration. That within you is a direct connection to the grand and glorious vision of your life. And so in this moment, we take this time to ask that wisdom, to inquire about this vision. And so for just a moment, I invite you to ask that deep wisdom within yourself, that resource of all knowledge, all insight, all inspiration. Ask yourself, what is the highest vision for my life? What is the glorious vision for my life? And give no concern to the how or the when or the why. Allow the grand vision for who you are to reveal itself right now, in this moment. Mm-hmm. And in the stillness, the vision reveals itself. What is that grand vision for your life? And when you have a sense of that, I invite you to embrace it, to hold that vision near in your heart, and absolutely trust that you have within you everything necessary to bring that vision into the reality that is your life. And knowing that we can return to this vision at any time, for today, we hold this gently in our hearts, bringing our awareness back to the consciousness of this room, back to this divine moment. And when you're ready, and always remembering to be so very, very gentle with yourself, just simply open your eyes and become present in this moment. And now, folks, the challenge, if you will, your calling for the day is to go share that with someone. Share with someone the grand, glorious vision for who you are and who you came here to be.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. That was lovely. And thank everyone all of you for watching. Those of you that are watching the replay, thank you. And we'll be back. Well, I'll be back. Robert will be helping me to be back next Monday. So thanks again. And Robert, anything that I need to remember that I may not have mentioned?
Not that's jumping in my mind. So we'll see you again next week, folks.
Bye-bye.